Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. In this video, I want to show you how to build autonomous enterprise agents with pro-code and low-code. In the enterprise, we've always had a choice: the raw power of pro-code or the lightning speed in development with low-code. But when it comes to agentic AI, choosing one means leaving half of your tools on the table. What if you could give your most sophisticated pro-code agents, built on the brand new Microsoft Agent Framework, instant access to over 1400 enterprise connectors? No custom API wrappers, no boilerplate, just pure integration. Today, we are bridging that gap using the Model Context Protocol. Let's go and build the ultimate enterprise AI stack. First, let's talk about the brain. The Microsoft Agent Framework is the official successor to Semantic Kernel and AutoGen. It's designed for high-stakes enterprise environments where you need type safety, state management, and complex multi-agent orchestration, and a lot of more. Check the video description for further information about Microsoft Agent Framework. With this framework, you aren't just sending prompts. You are building a reasoning engine. You can define graph-based workflows, handle human-in-the-loop approvals, and manage long-running sessions. But even the smartest brain is useless if it can't do anything. Enter the nervous system, Azure Logic Apps. If you need to talk to SAP, Oracle, ServiceNow, or even a legacy mainframe on premises, Logic Apps has been doing that for years. With over 1400 connectors, it is one of the world's largest library of pre-built connectors. And here is the kicker. In 2026, Logic Apps isn't just a workflow engine, it's an MCP server. This is where the magic happens. The Model Context Protocol, or MCP, is the open standard that lets these two worlds shake hands. By exposing a Logic app as an MCP server, your pro-code agent can discover every action in that workflow as a tool. Your agent doesn't need to know how to authenticate with Salesforce or handle SAP's complex schemas. It just sees a tool called Create Sales Order, for example, and calls it. Logic Apps handles the how, while the agent framework handles the why. Alright, let's see that in action, how we can use pro-code and low-code to build autonomous enterprise AI agents. On the screen, you see my scenario, or you see this scenario we want to talk about. On the left side, you see a sales order. So this is the business object we want to send to our SAP system. That means the sales order will operated by our SAP agent. The SAP agent is the implementation of the agent inside of the Microsoft Agent Framework. We're using the Microsoft Agent Framework. So this is the pro-code side here. And on the right side, you see the low-code side, which is implemented in Logic Apps. So we will reuse existing workflows that already integrating into the target systems, which is SAP for the sales order. And in case of an error, we want to create an incident. And for this, we are using the existing ServiceNow integrations. So in this case, the existing ServiceNow integration workflows here. And as you've seen, or as we mentioned in the video before, we want to use MCP to bridge the gap between the pro-code and the low-code. And now let's go over to the real demo, and I will show you how you can create this. All right, let's have a look on the low-code side, which is Logic Apps. And you can see on my screen right now, we have a Logic app, which is called ServiceNow. And here we have a workflow, which is called Create Incident. And this is to create an incident in ServiceNow. We have an HTTP trigger here, and this workflow is really straightforward. There's only one thing to do: create an incident. And on the HTTP trigger, we are getting the information about a description and a short description. And this is exactly what we want to specify in our incident. So you see here, we provide a short description and a long description for the incident. The most important part is to expose this logic app as an MCP server. And I will only show for ServiceNow because for SAP it's exactly the same. There's a workflow and you need to expose it as an MCP server. And for this, there is a new experience available in Logic Apps. You can see on the blade, there is an MCP server blade. And from there, you can hit or click on create. And then you can specify if you want to create an MCP server from existing workflows, or you can create new workflows from here. I clicked use existing workflows, and then there is an experience where you have a drop down where you can specify which workflows you want to have exposed as an MCP server, and then everything is working. So it's really straightforward experience. And then after this, you will get this view. Here you can see there is a ServiceNow MCP server now available, and this MCP server exposes these workflows here. So there's only one workflow right now. This is the create incident workflow you've seen before. And then you can specify the authentication method against this MCP server. So the client needs to authenticate against the server. And in this case, we want to use a key-based authentication. So that means we need to specify an API key to connect to this MCP server. But you will see in the code shortly. All right, let's go over to the code and see what we've got here. What you see here, this is the agent implemented as a pro code using C# and using the Microsoft Agent Framework. And the first thing here is we need to specify our large language model. In this case, we are using a GPT 4.1 model, and this model is deployed in AI Foundry. So then, important thing, we need to specify a system prompt. So you are an SAP agent and you are responsible to bring sales orders or integrate with SAP. The next part is our tool part. So here I specified one local tool, exactly here. This local tool is to create a file on the local system. So after the agent has finished his work, I want to have a documentation of all the reasoning and all the tool calling and so on. And then I want to have this as a markdown file onto the local file system. And for this, you need to specify a tool that the agent can interact with your file system here. So this is the purpose of this tool. And then the important part comes in. We want to configure our MCP server. And the first one here is our SAP MCP server to integrate with SAP. And the second MCP server is our ServiceNow MCP server. So you've seen before, there is a create incident. In case of an error, we want to create an incident automatically in ServiceNow. And after that, after specification, and here the important part here for the authentication, as you remember, we set the key-based authentication on our MCP server. So you need to specify an X API key that this client can authenticate with the server. So after that, we create an aggregated tool list from all the tools from the MCP server, from SAP, from ServiceNow, and also the local tools. And then comes the interesting part. Then we specify our agent. This is exactly what we are doing here. So the agent is an Azure OpenAI client, which uses the GPT 4.1 model from the Foundry environment. We authenticate against this agent, or we authenticate against Foundry with the Azure CLI credential here. And then we need to specify the instructions. So this is the system prompt. We can give a name and the aggregated tool list. And the most important part of all is you need to specify the user prompt. So what the agent needs to do. In short, we want to integrate, or we want to send a sales order to the SAP system. And in case of an error, it should create an incident. So this is the work which needs to be done autonomous in this case. So try to send the sales order to SAP, and in case of an error, please create automatically an incident using the ServiceNow connector. And this is what we want to try out right now. So I hit the start button here. So that takes a moment. All right, and after a while, we've got our documentation. So it extracts the information. So the objective of the agent was transfer a sales order to SAP with the following details: partner ID, position number, material, quantity, and date. And these are the steps that was taken by the agent, collecting all necessary sales order details for SAP entry. Then it recognizes that there is a tool that's called Create Sales Order from the SAP MCP server. Then it used these parameters here, and an error occurred. So the attempt to create the sales order in SAP failed, and error details function failed. So this is the only information we've got here. And then because of an error, it creates an incident. So it calls the incident management. So it created an incident in ServiceNow using the provided tool Create Incident from the ServiceNow MCP server. The incident number is 10006, short description, and it uses a long description. So in this, or in the detailed description, we also got the information about the order. So this makes life for the operation much more easier. And as I said at the beginning, I want to have a full documentation of which tools are used. As you can see, it was the Create Sales Order. It was the usage of Create Incident. And it also called the local tool to create the documentation file you've seen right now on the screen. So the overall status is that the sales order was not created due to an integration error, but the issue has been reported via ServiceNow, and this is the incident number. All right, let's also check the ServiceNow. I've already opened the incident with the provided incident number by the documentation markdown file. So as you can see, SAP sales order creation failed. And let's swap to the default view so we can see the long description as well. And this is exactly what you see here. Attempted to create the sales order in SAP with the following parameters: partner ID, position number, material, quantity, and date. Everything just fine here in this description. Let's also check the run history in our logic app here. Run history. So you see, this is exactly the call from our agent. And you see there's a description, there's the short description, and you see this was created successfully. Let's also check the SAP workflow. Go to the workflow, create sales order in SAP. Click on run history. This is our run, and yeah, you see the call is failed as expected. As you have seen, you can easily bring together pro code and low code to create enterprise agents using MCP. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you do not want to miss such content in the future. See you next time. Bye.